Why?
You got the black market? Why?
Why?
The people was against it.
Well,
Not so,
in the way of shoes, of course, I wear tennis shoes a lot, but should I bring like a hiking shoe or just?
yeah.
They going to Israel?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
People don't want mine.
Oh, listen. Belongs over there.
What is yours?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I stopped by Doug Donowitz, and he has a list of resources to call in the old city. But Jeff Seidel is an important one.
Jeff Skydell.
Yeah, because I got another
No,
dark.
because
He stayed by the Koto and he left people in.
so he'll know, people to call
Macabre.
for a
So many
place to
people.
stay or to
Oh,
eat,
guys.
etc.
I have a lot of people.
Yeah. So,
Yosef, you do me a favor. Give to these guys. Give your father also.
We're ready to start because you're here.
oh, I just want to ask you.
Give your father and parents.
So in case you didn't.
Oh, thank you so much.
One of the Miss Powell suggested that I should ask you, so I just want really, really brief. Anything wrong with this?
See nothing wrong.
Wie de haal, dat we straks in de paan of
Release is
we stuck in the Hare Maria.
That's what it says.
I mean, it wouldn't be possible because there's enough going on here. Is there a hole going through? Is this a hole going through that the air is going through from here?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say it's possible because you have the sheet, I think, over here, big enough. Question is if it changes oil.
I can check it. Is there anything I can do if it goes through?
Go back to the turkey leg.
No, you can cut it, but only if you know what. Let's deal with it when we finish.
Okay, sure.
This was a homemade chauffeur, right?
I don't remember. It's many years.
Looks like a nice homemade chauffeur.
It's showing them.
I was surprised we had them in here early.
You still
What
want
time?
that story?
9 o'clock, isn't it?
Yesterday, 9:10.
Okay. Good morning. It's a wonderful week. It's a week leading up to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Tishrei, we're not going to have so much chance to. This is like our last station before Tishrei to cover some stuff. Well, several shilas quite relevant lately, and one of them is last week. Someone asked me about getting stuff on Amazon or UPS on Shabbos. Could he pick up the box, put it into his house? Can he open the box? Can he use the stuff that are in the box? So that was a question. So really, there's really three parts to the question. One is that there is anything that comes chutz l'tchum for a Jew, you're not allowed to use on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Was brought to you chutz l'tchum. Now, I thought originally, UPS or Amazon, they're filling centers. Amazon filling centers are all very local. But then, I looked around. You don't have. So I asked around. It's not so simple that every filling center from Amazon, for example, is within Tchum Shabbos. Tchum Shabbos is not that is 2,000 amas. It could be the Verrazana Bridge. So there's a big filling center in Staten Island. So and there's a lot of filling centers in New Jersey and in all over Pennsylvania. You look when you go up to the mountains and the Frum bungalows, they have a lot of them went through the Lumdus and something.
New Jersey's not in the film, is it?
That's what I'm saying. It might not. Some places in New Jersey are, some not. I'm saying it's a valid question. It's not like, oh, for sure, any merchandise you got from Amazon, UPS for sure might be from Chutz L'Tchum, but even Amazon, that they have local filling centers, some of those centers are Chutz L'Tchum. So that's question number one. Something that was brought to you Chutz L'Tchum, you're not allowed to use in Shabbos and Yom Tov. If a guy went outside the Tchum Shabbos and brought it for you, you're not allowed to use it. So that's a pretty that's a question number one. Question number two is if a guy does any malacha for you on Shabbos, you're not allowed to have a noah. So if a guy comes into the house and turns on the light, you're not allowed to sit and read a book from the pleasure of that light.
Even if you didn't ask him.
Even if you didn't ask him, if he did it for you, you're not allowed to enjoy that light. So now the question is,
I was asked to find a goy because the sukkah light was out. Sukkah light was out.
For the zipper is different.
I don't know.
You're certainly making.
If he turned the light on for himself,
Huh?
if he turned the light on for himself to see where the sign, and he forgot to turn it off, is that okay?
If the guy did it for himself, then it's fine. So that's the second question. So the second question, the first question is something came out of the Tchum on Shabbos for you. So if a thing came out of the Tchum for the Yid, it was brought out of the Tchum. Doesn't matter. If it brought out of the Tchum, you're not allowed to have an off from this on Shabbos. So again, point number one is that UPS for sure is bringing things out of the Tchum, and also Amazon has filling centers that are out of the Tchum Shabbos. Like I said, could be that they have a big filling center in Staten Island. I'm not even sure the Verrazana Bridge might be as long as Tchum Shabbos. So and other filling centers in New Jersey and Pennsylvania might be out of Tchum Shabbos. So that's the first child. Second child is, if the guy is doing malacha for you on Shabbos, if he did it specifically for you, you're not allowed to be nana. There is a concept of neir la'echad, neir l'meir, which we'll talk about. If he lights the candle, then for himself, the yid is allowed to use it because neir la'echad, neir l'meir, and there's no gzeira shema yarba b'shvila. Like you can't, you turn on the light, you turn on the light. So that the second question is he doing malacha for you? Including the fact that he comes and he takes a picture, right, when the package is put at your door. Sometimes also there's a signature required and the guy does you a favor, he signs for you, all that. He drove the car. There's a lot of malachas that the guy is doing here until the package got to your house. So that's question number two. And question number three is muktzah. Is the merchandise muktzah? These are three basic questions. There's a Shemitah Shabbos Kelchasa says you're allowed to be nana from a package that was sent to you on Shabbos, and he says to look in the Chelkas Yaakov. Chelkas Yaakov was a very choshev Boisek, Rabbi Yaakov RIshon in Zurich, and he's probably
What kind is it?
he was a Rav in Munich, and Kristallnacht the Germans Yimach Shemam came into his house and beat him, and he got the message. So he left, and he was lucky. He was the Kahal Charedim of Zurich took him as a Rav, and he passed away somewhere in the 50s. Chelkas Yaakov probably from a dozen poskim that today deal with obviously starting with Moshe Feinstein's a Colonel Bracha, but say if you ask for who's a dozen poskim that are the ones that like brought over halacha and into contemporary shilas, is the Chelkas Yaakov is one of the strong pillars. So Chelkas Yaakov has a tshuva about receiving packages. He has two basic nekudas about why it should be mutter. Before we get to it, I just want to read a little bit inside from the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe already has, the Alter Rebbe's Hilchos of the time, he has everything in it. So you could, and then we'll talk about what the Chelkas Yaakov says. Look in the third line here, fourth line. Kosev Shulchan Aruch Rabbeinu, Siman Tov Kuf Tezvav, Sif Yud Aleph, and Sif Yud Beis. Sif Yud Aleph and Sif Yud Beis goes like this. If a guy brought into the city something that it's not possible that that on Shabbos there was a malacha done. He brought dried fruits. So he couldn't pick the fruits today. You can't. I mean, how did he? So obviously they were not muktzah when it came ben hashmoshes. Talking about Yom Tov. So that now he wants to take these birds and shech that need it. And these are domestic animals that you don't have to do tzedek. You don't go out to the field to catch a tarnagel. People raise in chicken coops. So obviously, this tarnagel was sitting ben hashmoshes in someone's chicken coop. If he brought it from within the tchum, mutarim l'koil, everyone is allowed to enjoy it. If he brought it from chutz l'tchum, the anish of tchilus knesses Yom Tov. When Yom Tov came, he might die in chutz l'tchum, and asur la'achil la'boy b'yem l'vish hove b'shvil l'chol anshe betz asmuchim terchana shagam b'shvil l'meskaven anochil ba'beosoi v'lerev tzirich l'hantav v'chdesh yasma. That you're not allowed to have enough meat if he brought it for you from outside the tchum, and you have to wait Matzah Shabbos as long as it would take the goy to bring it. So if it takes the goy an hour to deliver it, you have to wait an hour after Shabbos to have enough of it. Al Rebbe says, this is different than the regular Gzeira Malachas Yom Tov. Elohu nenema adove shenasa b'malacha. Avaloi mean gufa malacha ba'atzma. There was a malacha done here, but the gufa malacha, it's not like a cooked piece of food that the guy cooked on Shabbos and Yom Tov. This is different. Lefikach lo yocham matzrichim lahantam v'adeshiyasa. V'lo mitzrichim lahantam shum zeh d'shem ayom l'noch v'sheyav le'minei meichel m'chutz l'tchum b'yom tov k'dei l'ma'ar achilosei b'layla. It was a gzeida. If the guy brought it for you, really it's not like Ma'aseh Shabbos or Yom Tov that chacham, if the guy cooked something for you, you're not allowed to eat it, and well, that's a separate issue. If you cook something which is not shaykh mishlach, but here because you're not from the gufa malacha, it's just that the guy walked machutz tchum. Really, they should not have made a gzeida, but they made a gzeida. They were scared that this Shabbos or this Yom Tov. The guy brought it to next Shabbos Yom Tov. You're going to tell, hey Johnny, could you do me a favor? Could you bring me something? So therefore, the Chazal made a gzeida. They said you can't enjoy it on Shabbos Yom Tov, and once on Shabbos you have to wait as long as it'll take to bring it anyway. So that was the gzeida. Okay, it's important to give you this background because this is all going to be very relevant in a minute. Then at the end of the Siman Dal Rebbe brings, it's a Sif Chof-Beis and the regular Shulchan Aruch, the Sif Tes. Yisrael sheshiger doiron lachaber al yidei goy me'erev Yom Tov. A yid that sent a gift to his friend, and the shliach was a goy. Behavi a goy is a doiron lachaber b'Yom Tov chutz l'tchum. Im Yisrael shliach hu yidei she'efsher yagi a doiron layad chaber elam kein a goy yelach goy b'Yom Tov chutz l'tchum. Arei ze also b'achil l'misha hu v'b'shvil l'anche beisei. U'le'erev tzarech l'amtov v'dei she'yaseh. If the sender did a isur by sending it because he knew the goy is traveling on Yom Tov, so then the gzeida applies. He didn't know that the guy is going to carry it on Shabbos and Yom Tov. He thought there's enough time to do it on Erev Shabbos. To say that they make a gzeida and maybe next week you're going to ask the guy, he's nothing. He's just a messenger. He's not your friend. The guy, he was sent. He got paid to bring your delivery. Elo b'shel make. So mitzad the guy, there's no reason to make a gzeida. By Yisrael lo yishmei lo l'shloach lo b'yom tov chutz t'chim she'enon m'choytev aloy loy. So there's no reason to make a gzeida. This guy, why would the guy bring you anything? He doesn't know you. He doesn't know you anything. Why would the guy listen to you? In the other case, obviously he's your friend. He's bringing you stuff. But in this case, he's a delivery man. Why would a delivery man? You ask a delivery man to bring you to do you a favor and tomorrow bring you a bag of apples. I mean, why would he do that? And the Yisrael that sent it to you, we know that there's a rule that every Yid wants to do the mitzvahs. It's just that the Yetzer Hara gets mixed in. It's only for a personal pleasure. But when a person looks for someone else, he doesn't. The Yetzer Hara is not there. So the Chazal say the cardinal rules. Okay, so the Chelkas Yaakov is a beautiful tshuva, and he says the bottom line. I'm writing here. We can read it because I'm just reducing this tshuva to 2 lines. Chelkas Yaakov Ma'aser. Number one, shekan vadi yishlach Yisrael chavila beit namutik nabur b'shachnar RIshon zayin ve'ein mokom ligzik hago ein el shliach Yisrael hayas isak nabur b'shachnar rabbeinu. So basically, the truth is that this requires another shear, and we will also talk a little bit about this soon. Well, in general, in Sefer Torah, if you pay a goy to deliver a package for you or take a letter for you, so the basic thing is that there's two things. Number one, the goy is getting paid; it's kabbalonus, and number two, it's really all one thing, is that the goy is not saying he's going to do it necessarily on Shabbos. The goy could do it any day. You don't care if when he delivers it, so you never ask him to do it on Shabbos. Plus, that's the problem. That's the problem. So the Chalkas Yaakov, you're already seeing the cracks over here. Chalkas Yaakov says, obviously, the person who sent it to you did it behet. But then the Chalkas Yaakov says, with the Pachoyre, there's a problem when you pay a little extra for express. So he says, already there's child Satruvas that dealt with it, and probably whoever sent to you did it be'oif and shalhetet. Express back then, 50 years ago, and when you have like that thing that is coming to you tomorrow, 12 o'clock, yeah, I'm not sure it was exactly the same, but after my insight. We'll put pause on that for a second. But then
You make a special request that it not come on Shabbos, like, let's say for it to come on Monday or Friday. Would that be better?
We'll talk about it in a second. I want to first finish off what the Chalkas Yaakov says. So he says, okay, look, no one did any issa by sending it to you, and the goy is merely a shliach. So, 2 plus 2, it's not a problem. Now, the other issue, he says, how about the malachas that the goy is doing? So he says like this. When it comes to the goy signing, he's not signing for you. Or taking a picture. There's coffee there too. When it comes to signing, the guy is not signing for you. The same thing, they take a picture. He's not doing you a favor. He's doing himself a favor. You're going to call and say, I never got the package. So they showed us a picture. He's not doing malacha for you. And then he says, the fact that the train and the truck is going, it's most of the people anyway today where we live, most of the people are goyim, so the malacha is done for goy. That's what he says. And then he doesn't talk about the muktzah part of it, but I would add to that the muktzah, it's very hard to find a case that something was delivered to you and it's bein hashmashos, so it was really muktzah. Say like the din is that like raw materials, leather, yarn is muktzah. Why? Because the person that has the yarn doesn't want anyone to touch it, because he wants to make the godim. He doesn't want it to have a little bit of coffee stain. So if you walk in the back of the factory where they have all these big, huge things of yarns, and you walk in with a coffee, the guy's going to give you a gesherei, get out of there. And if you're going to touch them, those machschode, you're going to get it over your head. That's muktzah. But most of the stuff are made in China. Even though delivery happens very fast, the production, besides printed stuff, which is an issue, newspapers that are delivered on Shabbos were printed. It's taka achram deal with that. But besides printing, which is exceedingly quicker today than it used to be, you could press a button, Amazon will print your book, and it's very quick from when you press the button, and then it gets printed, shipped to you. But other stuff like shoes and all these stuff, bein hashmashos, they were not muktzah. They were already begodim that they're not fakir, they're not mak. But today, in the stores, they put out that the derech is that the stores put it out, and people come in and they touch it, they try it on, and they look at it. The fact that it was in the factory, they're not makbid on it, that no one should touch it. So I don't see that there should be a muktzah issue. But now let's go back to the first, the two main kulas, which is that there's no reason to be goyzer because the yid that sent it to you did a behetim, and the goy is merely a shliach. Okay, so that is a problem today. Because most of the delivery, if it was true that you're getting someone sending you a package of chocolate, that's what the Chalkas Yaakov is talking about. But 10 out of 10 packages you get today, you ordered. Can't say ain't them choyte v'loy loy. There's no reason to make a gzeira. No, because no one's going to do a chet. You are the one that's delivering, and the guy that's bringing it is your shliach. No, he won't listen to you. What do you mean he won't listen to you? If you'll click again on the button, he'll listen to you. If he'll listen to you because he gets paid. You're paying him. You're paying the company to pay him. He's by extension, he's your shliach. So the whole kula that the Shmira Shabbos Kolchosa and the Chalkas Yaakov is talking about, it's like a drop misleading. If you read the Shmini Shabbos Kelchotza, you think, yeah, no problem. It's a small piece in the entries. It's, you get package on Shabbos, you're allowed to take the package, you're allowed to be nana. Don't worry if it's coming chutz l'tchum. There's the Chelkas Yaakov. Look in the Chelkas Yaakov. Yeah, that's when someone else sent you a package. But when you send yourself a package, that's the classical Gzeira. Chazal said that if it's, even if you did nothing wrong, because the guy decided to give you a gift, they made a Gzeira that you're not allowed to be nenet on Shabbos and Yom Tov and Motzei Shabbos. So, and I didn't find any other contemporary tshuvas should deal with this. And I'm sure someone already dealt with that. I just didn't find. So that's problem number one. So if you knew that that this filling center is b'toich hatchum, there's no problem. As I said, I asked around Friday. I asked by people that are, their whole business is shipping their stuff through Amazon, and they said no, there's no guarantee. Just because you're in New York, there's no guarantee that the stuff that you're getting came b'toich hatchum. It's very possible that it came chutz l'tchum. So the tchum becomes all of a sudden an issue because you are delivering it, not someone else is sending it to you. So over there, the Gzeira Chachamim of go bring you something not to use in a Shabbos chutz l'tchum is a problem. The second issue is in the days of Rabbi Yaakov RIshon. So, 1950, think about it, Switzerland. First of all, there's no Rishus Harab, everything is a carpus. It's not New York City. Second, most cities were that time were that way too. There's no Rishus Harab. Now, he's talking about the train. The train came to Zurich, and there was one car that was full of packages. There were 10 mailmen with little wheelies. Each mailman put 25 boxes in the thing, and they walked around the city. And so there was no serious malacha happening specifically for any Jew. There wasn't a system where Amazon sent a truck that stopped at every address and just to make sure that you got a mamish on time. So they have a team of Uber, like people that want to make an extra few dollars, that they just come with their car. It's mamish for you. They're coming to your house and they're bringing you a package. They jump into their little jalopy and they deliver the package. They take a picture and they run away. So the truth is, if you lived in an apartment building, and Aruba, the apartment building is goyim, so take what the Chelkas Yaakov is saying is true. But if the Amazon truck drove even a half a block and stopped at your address, so he turned on the truck, which is probably a malacha d'oraisa. Probably a malacha d'oraisa. Huh? If a Jew did it, whatever is a malacha d'oraisa, even a malacha d'rabbanan, you're not allowed to. If a goy did it for you, you're not allowed to be nana from it. So, okay, you could argue and say that you weren't nana. What's not as bad as cooking because he brought it, but I'm just saying there is a problem here. Probably driving a car is a d'oraisa. Depends, things are changing. No, that's not true. That's only b'makom mitzvah. But if it's not b'makom mitzvah, the goy's shus is only for special tzorech. It's not mutter.
You're allowed to put it into the mailbox, a letter right before job.
So the Mishmur Shachar brings that it's mutter, but you're not makpid. You don't hear when they
Right.
when it arrives. Yeah.
Okay, you get the hand with it on top.
Okay. That's different. So the shaila is, so the thing is like this. If a person's be'emes not makpid and he's not looking, and it's a tirche for the person to go change the time, it's like now it's turning into a headache. So you could say, listen, I'm not makpid. I'm not trying to get a dafka on Shabbos. I just start a headache with the whole thing to try to figure out how to get Amazon to. But Takazo, if you really want it on Shabbos, there's a problem, and this is not the problem we're dealing with today, but this is the problem. Okay. So anyway, in conclusion, so that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. That's the problem. So if a person really wants it on Shabbos, so that's not the issue. That's another issue. Right. So I'm saying if he didn't care, but still the Gzeira that there is, that he brought it to chutz l'tchum stays. That say that even if you say that the person is no problem, that you could order something and just whatever, I don't care when they bring it, but they bring it Shabbos, a shame. But the problem of bringing chutz l'tchum stays. The problem with chutz l'tchum doesn't go away.
You need to check. Okay, so sometimes they tell you that it's already in Brooklyn. Sometimes they tell you it's already in a certain place. So it means there is a socket. It's not reality 100%. These people from Amazon told you that we don't know. We don't know means a socket. Later, the Rabbanan is also in a time of a socket.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know.
I can't wait to the end of Shabbos.
I hear.
Now with COVID, things are delayed. So some.
I hear.
Now with COVID, things are always delayed. But even if you order something on Amazon,
That makes it more possible that you can cook.
Right. For that, right.
Know that
Because people know that things are delayed.
I got a question. Who wrote this? The Rebbe or?
The Siman Tov Kuf Tezvav
Yes.
is the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch.
Okay, Alter Rebbe is talking here twice. He said achila. He didn't know what Amazon package is something. Talking only achila. Only bringing food. He
And
didn't.
shoes are different. Okay.
So they didn't have
Okay, so let's conclude. There's two.
Very possible that yes, it's don't by even also that's not another thing.
It'd be terrible. It's a public trade. Okay, so let's conclude. There is two possible problems. So there's no problem of picking it up. I don't see a problem on muktzah, unless you know it's muktzah. But I don't see a problem on muktzah. I didn't see Chelkas Yaakov anyone talk about befedish, but I don't see there's a muktzah issue. You can pick it up and take it into your house. But to use it, so there's problem number one, that the goy did malacha for you specifically, if that's the case, because most deliveries that's the case. And then there's possibly a problem of him bringing it machutz l'tchum.
It's something not to take it from the hand.
The Mishnah Berurah says that the delivery man brings it to you. The Mishnah Berurah says not to take in hand. Why? Because he's making he did the akira, and you're being mishtatev if you're gonna like, and accidentally, you're not gonna put your hand like this. Maybe you move your hand to drop. You did the hanocha. It's potter avalosu. So the Mishnah Berurah says that whenever a delivery man brings you a package or a letter, that you shouldn't put out your hand. You should just put it down.
You actually could take it after he puts it on the floor. You could bring it in.
Yes.
Or I push it with the legs, but not like.
I don't see a problem. I said the Chatzan wasn't talking about that part. He was talking about using it. And Kolchkin, he didn't have a problem with the muktzah part of it.
Using it is okay also.
No, he says using it is okay. I don't think using it is okay, because I think today the goy did malacha for you specifically.
So yesterday, a lot of people got the rubbish magazine, whatever. So you were not allowed to touch it, or because it gets printed a long time ago, or you look at the mail and walk into your house.
No, so mail is a little less because they're walking around. There is neir lech neir lameya. There, and it's not as bad as the newspapers that were printed on shekels. Obviously, it's printed before Shabbos. So and it didn't come at chutz l'tchum. And you could say that the goy is relying on the flat b'sheitiv. So we're not dealing with the reshus harav gomur. So yeah, no, yeah, the Chinese. Okay.
I think they have to teach UPS and Amazon, everybody. The hilchot of.
Yeah, Mashiach is coming, and then that's going to happen.
Coming soon.
And it's a problem. If you put that it should come dafkan Shabbos, there is a problem. I don't want to deal with it today, but it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
If you send it before and you're not makbid, or that's just whatever it is.
Important medicine.
Little people are made, we'll have to deal with it another time.
Rabbi, question. Sometimes it's an issue with the big boxes. Somebody will come onto your porch and they will steal your package. you were insinuating before, you're permitted to take the package inside your house.
Yeah, that's what I said. You're allowed to take it in. You're allowed to take it in. Yeah, you're allowed to take it
Even without the wholesale?
in. Now, in your building, you have to make sure there's an edit Mercedes to take it in there.
Yeah.
And that's a separate issue.
Cool question for you. Well, with my building,
I'm sure they have edit Mercedes in your building, but just make sure.
what they would do is the doorman would put the package in the closet. Would that be an issue? But he doesn't, not only for me, but all tenants.
Yeah, no, it's good for you to make sure that there's edit Mercedes, and then you'd be allowed to take it with your hands into your apartment. No problem.
With my building, it's non-issue because the doorman doesn't for all tenants in the building.
If the thing itself is muktzah, then
Yeah,
the story of it.
Yeah. The thing itself is
Depends if you know that it's honey and chirigas or something like that, you would take it.
right. If you know it's muktzah, then you separate it. How to send the Sefer Torah? What a shame. Benzi is not here today. I was sure that Benzi always wants to know how to send the Sefer Torah. I mean, obviously, he's been sending Sefer Torah. So you're sending a recording. Shkoyach.
You have to work.
So, let's talk about sending a Sefer Torah. There is last week I mentioned about going to the oil and fasting. There's a story about the Moifa Sefer Torah from the Baal Shem Tov. There is a story that the Frierdiker Rebbe told. The Frierdiker Rebbe started to write a Sefer to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu. At that time, he told a story. He said that his father went to Mezhebush, to the Baal Shem Tov. I mentioned last week that his father, that he fasted, and how the Rebbe has a ha'or on it. When you go to Tziyana Matzadik, yeah, fasting, not fasting, eating, drinking. But I mentioned that I'll tell the rest of the story. So basically, he came to the base of Medrash Baal Shem Tov. It was a Sunday. It was in the evening. That day, the whole day, he was at the Tziyana of Baal Shem Tov, and there was an old man there. He was a grandson of the Mishamash of the Baal Shem Tov, and he was considered the Shamash of the Shul. The Baal Shem Tov gave them a bracha for 3 generations at Riches Yom. His name was Reb Tuvia Leib. He could hardly do anything for the Shul, but with Pnei Kvoida, he still had the title of the Shamash of the Beis HaKnesses. And they were sitting around, a couple of old people, and he's telling stories of the Baal Shem Tov. And he said that there was a Kabbalah that as long as the Beis HaKnesses of Baal Shem Tov is standing strong, that city, that the Jewish community is safe. So, and unfortunately, he started the things were starting to fall apart. And he said like this, that there used to be that the Moifa Sefer Torah from the Baal Shem Tov, they only would take it out when big Rebbes came. Big Rebbes came, they would take it out for the Koved that Rebbe. And otherwise, they'd only take it out Simchas Torah, to dance with it. And now that there's leaks in the roof and they're so desperate, so every rich man that comes gives a few rubles, and they're so desperate that they take out the Sefer Torah and they make a special Kriyah Torah for every Kvir that comes to town and wants to be Zoicha, and he started to cry. So the Rebbe Rashab walked over to him and said, "What's the pshat, a Moifa Sefer Torah? Why is it called a Moifa Sefer Torah?" So he said, his grandfather told him, Azar Mais. In the year Tov Kuf Yud Beis, that's Tov Kuf Yud Beis is 1752, a couple of years ago. In the year 1752, before the Declaration of Independence, right? So 1752, there was a pandemic that broke out in Mezhebush. Ein bayis asher ein boy. And they came to the Baal Shem Tov to ask what to do. The Baal Shem Tov says, that the avoid of a yid is always makes a rotzim with the Eibishter. And what's the main avoid of a yid? Oisis HaTorah and Tehillim. Either through saying it or through writing it. So that's what we have to do. So the Baal Shem Tov right away instructed his Sefer Tzvi to start writing a Sefer Torah. And as they wrote 2 Yediyas, the Magefa stopped. The Magefa stopped. They wrote 2 Yediyas. And then they completed that Sefer Torah. And this is called the Moifa Sefer Torah. This is called the Moifa Sefer Torah. So the Rebbe Rashab asked him, how much would it cost to fix up the shul once and for all, to fix it good? So the guy thinks, he says, low end 300 ruble, high end 450 ruble. You buy a pack of cigarettes today with 450 ruble?
I don't know how much they ruble.
But I'm joking. You can buy a couple of packs. I know. I'm saying, So the Rebbe Rashab told him that he's a businessman from RIshon. It wasn't a lie, because really he paid his taxes as if he was a businessman, or whatever. He's a businessman from RIshon, and he'll give him the 450 ruble, but he wants they should take out the Sefer Torah and read it for him. And with a whole bunch of conditions, that he doesn't want a hoopla about it. It should be early in the morning, it should be a minion of Skanim, it should be a Kohen Levi and Yisrael. And the Shamash was masking. And that was it. Just an interesting thing. He fasted all day. The Frierdiker writes that his father, after that, went to his achzanya. He drank a cup of warm water, and he ate a piece of bread. Then he came back. He went and he bought cake and beer and brought it back to the shul and put it to the old people, and they continued a little bit fabrengi. And then they went to sleep, and they woke up very early when it was still Bashkama. They went to the mikveh, and then they had that minyan. And then as soon as the minyan was over, he went back to the Baal Shem Tov, and he left. He went on the train back to Lubavitch. I stopped something that caught my eye when I'm reading it. He was fasting all day. The next day he was fasting. He went to eat a cup of tea and a piece of bread. But when he brought back for the Zakanim, he didn't bring them tea and bread. Cake and beer. It's a tanua, for himself was whatever his Seder Avoid, it was his Seder Avoid.
He fasted for 2 days straight?
No, he ate. So he went at night, he went to his place, he was renting a room, he went and he ate, and he broke his fast with a cup of tea and a piece of bread. And then he went and he got cake and beer, and he brought it to the shul for the skanim that they had a little bring it. So I'm saying for himself, he ate, he broke his fast on a piece of bread and a cup of tea. But for the people in the shul, he brought them cake and beer.
You treated the people even better.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyway, back to our shaim. So how do you transfer Sefer Torah? So the thing is like this. The Shulchan Aruch says, look here in the sheet that we have. Shulchan Aruch says, Elo manicha b'cheke keneged libu b'roich v'lachamor. But if there's no pachla ganovim, you're not even allowed to put it in a sack and put it on the chamar next to you. You have to hold the Sefer Torah in your hand respectfully, keneged libu. Like Yankel tells the story of his father, how his father came from Russia to America, JFK, with a Sefer Torah holding in his hand. The thing is like this, that this is not an easy thing. For Yankel's father, it's very nice. But when the Torah Gemach is sending Sefer Torah all the time, so number one, who's going to travel this? And even if you're traveling, so it's very hard to hold it. And here's the real big problem. If you're going to many countries, including and especially Israel, you come in with Sefer Torah, you go there.
Check you out.
They check your pockets. There's the taxes. You're a Sefer Torah dealer. There is taxes for it. And in Israel, they understand what is Geschäft. And you can't tell them that this thing is worth $35.99. That they know the value of a Sefer Torah. And they want to get their taxes because you're a soicher selling a Sefer Torah. So what do you want to do? You want to wrap it up, and the hope that they're looking for guns and ammunition, and when it goes and it works. They wrap it up as it's not a gun, and it's not marijuana, so they don't have. And it goes through. It's been proven.
They look at it.
No, so listen. Here's what he wants to do.
You don't think it's the bomb?
No, he puts it in with a sticker, fragile, and he wraps it up very well with a bubble wrap, puts it in a box.
Slide up.
Yeah, and that's it. and sends it, and he sends it sometimes UPS, he sends it with Amazon, he sends it. Yeah, and they it never happened yet that there's someone at customs, at some chap, that this is a piece that's worth somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000, and that maybe there's a tax even in Israel. Never once happened. We're talking about the Torah Gemach is going on for many years, and we're talking about maybe now transactions that are over 1,000 by now. So now here's the question: are you allowed to do that? But this is a question that it's been dealt with a lot by Gedolei Yisrael over the generations. The Rif,
Cheating government taxes?
no, not that. That's a separate issue. I'm not dealing now with that. We're talking about the Kovet Sefer Torah. The other issue is also dealt with about taxes, and we spoke about
If
it.
you look at it from a different perspective, the government is trying to cheat you of money.
Okay, let's leave the taxes question to the side right now. Let's talk about the Kovet the Sefer Torah issue. So here's the thing: the Gemara says how you're supposed to treat a Sefer Torah. There's a machlokes in RIshon about this. The Gemara says, "Hamelech hatzamas amakom markem marei lo yitnem b'diskai v'yitnem agam b'chamar v'yirkav alayim neshenag l'mivim b'zayin." Gederach shama b'tzamas kacham b'Sefer Torah. So the Tosha says that if you want to put it in a bag, say you're walking and you want to put it in a bag and put it mafshilan la'achayim. Yerushalmi says you're allowed to do it. But there's those that read the Rif that the Rif says you're not allowed to do that. And that's the simple reading of the Shulchan Aruch. The only way you're allowed to transport the Sefer Torah, you hold it respectfully in your hand. The problem is it's very difficult to do. So the Shach in the Shulchan Aruch, the Shach says right here, he says, Lahalacha, Naktinin, he says, Bevadai that Hecha the Efsher Lahachma Bekova da Torah. Aval Hecha the Lo Efsher, Mutter Afil Lirkev Alayim. If there's no other choice, you could be makel. So Bepashas, he means you could be makel, that you're allowed to be mafshel in a bag lachoyda. So could be sending in a package is like mafshel lachoyda. The problem is that it is worse because sometimes the goyim throw it, the packages, and packages fall on the floor. Packages fall on the floor. Sefer Torah falling on the floor is an unbelievable bizayin. Ad kedei kach. So the Chelkas Yaakov has a beautiful svara. He says that the din is that if a film falls on the floor, you have to fast. But if it was in a nartik, you don't have to fast. Because it was in a nartik, in a package, it's not a bizayin. Now, if it's a person wants to sleep with his wife, and this film is in the room, it has to be double covered. Nartik betoich nartik. Nartik betoich nartik. So we see that the bizayin of falling on the ground is lesser of bizayin. One covering is good enough. One covering is good enough. So the Rambam holds that you're allowed to sleep with your wife if the Sefer Torah is in the room, if there is a double cover. The Shulchan Aruch says to be machmir, not to. But still, the gabe falling on the ground, maybe the Shulchan Aruch would be masking to the Rambam that the falling is the lesser bizayin, right? And we said to be mishamash with your wife, you need a double cover. For it not to be a bizayin to fall on the floor, one cover. So we don't sleep. We wouldn't sleep with our wife in a room that there is Sefer Torah there, even with a double cover. But maybe like a bizayin of falling on the ground, we could be makel. He says, especially if you're going to put a sticker on it saying it's fragile, and you're going to put a sticker saying this side up, and the guy doesn't want to. He thinks that there's glass in there. He's going to throw it. The glass is going to break, and then he's going to have a problem in his hand. So it's a high probability that the guy is not going to throw it. But if alach shash that he is going to throw it, since it's a nartik betoich nartik, so you could be makel. Another thing he says that there is a whole shaila in the Chacham Tzvi. There was a shul that was on fire, but it wasn't done bizod. It was just whatever. It was a fire. What happened? Oh, there was a shaila in the Chacham Tzvi that there was a fire that in the shul and Sefer Torah burned down. So he said because it wasn't done lahachis, so that it's not considered the bizoyan. That no one put out the fire to desecrate. It was an accidental fire that happened in the shul. So therefore, the Chacham Tzvi says that doesn't have the din of a bizoyan Sefer Torah, that they would have to treat it the same way. So it's the same thing here. If the guy doesn't know what's in the box, so if he did throw it, it wasn't done as a bizoyan for the Sefer Torah. So anyway, to summarize, definitely, if you could take a Sefer Torah, you should try to hold it in your hand and carry it, as I mentioned, like Yankel Yankelovich that tells the story of his father.
Wow.
But if you can't, otherwise you can wrap it up, double wrap it, and send it. Now there's an interesting thing, and there's a tshuva from the Chaim Palaji in Izmir. The Chaim Palaji says that in Izmir the minhag was that they used to make the Sefer Torah apostle by taking off one letter or putting shayv on it, and because the kedusha Sefer Torah is less, then they would rely the package and send it with a guy in a package. But he says you're not allowed to do that because that's awesome. He says, what could you do? He says you could take out the yediyas, take out the gidim, and now it doesn't have a din of Sefer Torah, it has a din of a chumash, and therefore it doesn't have to be treated with the same as a Sefer Torah. And then he says that people ask them, maybe they could do less. They could just take off the Atzei Chaim. He says the Atzei Chaim is not enough. The Atzei Chaim is not enough. The two pieces of wood that hold the Sefer Torah. The Atzei Chaim is not enough. It's not enough to take down the kedusha of the Sefer Torah. That's what he says. Now, there's other achronim like Talmidim Chacham Sofer that says that no, it's also to take out the gidim and to undo the Sefer Torah, which is something that sometimes again you're tempted to do if you don't want to get charged taxes. If you send them as regular yediyas, it's harder for them to catch that it's a Sefer Torah. So the Imre Yosher, the Meir Arik, Talmud of Chacham Sofer says you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because you're taking down the kedusha Sefer Torah. However, it would stand to reason that you're allowed to take off the Atzei Chaim. Because what was the reason that the Meir Adik said you're not allowed to take apart the yediyas? Because you're lowering the kedusha of the Sefer Torah. But when you take off the Atzei Chaim, you're not lowering the kedusha of the Sefer Torah. And this is really a big part. It doesn't help, but it does help for taxes. And this is the thing, the Torah Gemach always takes off, or almost always takes off the why, again, with the taxes. And also it's how you package it, but a big reason is the taxes. If there's a much higher chance, especially with Israel, if you're sending a package and it's a Sefer Torah and there's Atzei Chaim, it's Atzei Chaim. Okay, we know what it is, pull it over, now you have a tax problem. As opposed to when they take off the Atzei Chaim, again, there's nothing to erase the alarm, so it works. Just the Metzias is that it works. So because from the Chaim Palaji, you can learn the reverse. He says it won't help to take off the Atzei Chaim, but that means there's no problem to take off the Atzei Chaim. You're not lowering the kedusha of the Sefer Torah by taking off the Atzei Chaim. But if you're going to take apart the yediyas, that was the minhag to do in Izmir. But other Achronim say that you're lowering the kedusha Sefer Torah, so you shouldn't do it. I would say for the Torah Gemach, it depends. Torah Gemach is doing business all over the world, including places like Iran. So if you're sending it to a place where it's sensitive and you're not passing a word, you're just taking apart the yediyas. And we see that Chaim Balaji said that the minhag in Israel was to do so. Otherwise, not to take out any of the stitches, just to take off the Atzei Chaim, which doesn't take off the kedusha of the Sefer Torah, and to pack it, double pack it, sticker, fragile, this side up, and then, if a person is traveling with the Torah, one would argue that you should take it in your hand. I'll tell you what, even then, is that the problem is like this. What's going to happen? Say the Torah Gemach finds a person to take the Torah with him, right? And now he's traveling to wherever he is, and he's walking JFK with a lot of pride, and he's holding the Sefer Torah covered with a talus. Then he comes, the TSA, some shiksa, who's not being paid for a large amount of brains, and and knows very little of the language of English. And there's no way for you to communicate with the person. They also are shikr from the authority they have. They don't need alcohol to become drunk. They're drunk from the amount of authority they have. And now go negotiate with them that this is a very holy object. So, and that, you don't want anything to be thrown on it, that if they have to put it through the scanner, it should be respectfully, or maybe you could hold it and they'll do this. You're going to miss your flight. So that's also perhaps a thing to consider. Even if you're flying with the Sefer Torah, you could take it in your hand, but when you have to go through the TSA, the bizyonis that could be for Sefer Torah, might not be kedai, so it might be kedai better to just double wrap it and send it with fragile on this side up, better than taking it in your hand.
I think we need to share with Bensi. He would tell us how we send it.
I heard a recent story. Someone tried to take on the plane, and somehow they got past the TSA, but the stewardess was refusing and saying, no, you have to either put up in the thing or put on the floor. You can't hold it. And made such a ruckus. The pilot came out and said, what's this all about? And he explained, said, I study the Daf Yomi every day. You can put the Torah, has a table next to me. So it was in the cockpit.
The pilots.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, lavachol yom is rachas nissa. This no look. You see that the Eibishter, unbelievable story. Unbelievable. The Eibishter was mazaka, someone that wanted to. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. You see, like the story in the Gemara, but at least about the vine that he didn't want to take off his tefillin. The Eibishter made a miracle. The Eibishter made a miracle for this guy. Yeah. But otherwise, like you said, also the stewardesses that make it b'shuga, and even to say you want to put it up there, but chas v'shalom that something should be on top of the Sefer Torah. But they're not going to listen to you. They're going to put something else on top of the Sefer Torah. So I think it's not a bad idea to double wrap it and just make sure.
Find out when the next pilot
is that. Yeah, the young pilots.
My brother-in-law's Mechi. His wife is orange. So they have a picture of from a very old newspaper that her great-grandfather was a Rav in Rapid City in South Dakota.
Wow.
Coming in a horse with the Sefer Torah in his hand.
Wow.
From somewhere, from here.
Wow. Okay, let's finish off quickly. So people are asking about the Prozbul. So I want to read quickly in the Alter Rebbe, and we'll leave off for this. Alter Rebbe writes in Hilchas Havos, Shmitas Ksafim B'Shvis Neheged V'Van Azem Libri Sefer and Beretz Yisrael B'Chutz La'aretz. Even though it's not a din min Torah, but there is a thing that the loans are expired even b'zman hazeh. Shoracham shenim na'am l'mav v'zeh b'evil machshon. The Torah shemer l'chem tanya davar l'mavach b'liyah le'mer kar v'shnas sheva. The v'tikna Prozbul sheim ser amal v'ez chayv l'beizn afa b'shein moislam shtar shemer l'mutnei shmita and moislam chayv b'shekben kol zman she'etz shemer dvar malolo asom chram kilo mos shtar l'beizn. Moislam shtar l'beizn l'mutnei shmita v'emel man atam gavel chayv ein ashvis meshametes min Torah. Shenemer lo yiges esreyeyu. וזה אין צורך ליגס שהבזדן לא יקסם בשביל אחר זה שכבר נמסלם נשמיט ואפילו אין לו ישתר כלל או חי בפה מויל פרוזבול. So there is a mitzvah that all debt expires in the year Shemitah. So, but that only is a private debt. But if the debt is handled by Bezdin, the debt does not expire. So therefore, Chazal made a takona that everyone should give over the debt to Bezdin. I say let the debt expire. It's good. That's what the Torah said. Chazal realized that's going to destroy the whole system. The people are never going to give out loans if they know that every loan is going to expire at the end of 7 years. So therefore, they said that every person should do the Prozbul. Okay. So when do you do Prozbul? Zman Prozbul lechatchila b'sefer shishis l'fnei Rosh Hashanah shel Shvius, which was last year before Rosh Hashanah. After Shvius, and Meshamet said the Sefer Shemakei Shever Shana Tas Shmita Yoshem Shanich and Shach Shmitz Otlet Vaychayve Shamalo Yigas Esrei Vesachi Kor Shmita Lashem Yatcha Kor Shmita Lashem La Yigas Elok Shaloy Beperei Lama Atzmen Tzarich Lama Meshamatani K'mosh Tzarich Lama Acher Shvius Shem Azeh Shmar Shmita Shomer. So that from the beginning of Shmita already, you're not allowed to ask for your loan. It's just that in the year Shmita, if he gives it to you, you can take it. And after the year Shmita, if he gives it to you, you have to tell him, I'd rather not take it. after the 7th year, tzarich l'daber hashmita shmata b'peh, v'zeh mekei sheva shana, v'lo yas apruzbul b'soif shishis, yasa b'shvis ad Rosh Hashanah shel l'tzoy shvis. If he didn't make a pruzbul at the end of year 6, he should make it end of year 7. Sounds from the Alter Rebbe that if you made it last year a pruzbul, you're good. However, there are opinions that say no, that the sunset of the loan is at the end of year 7, not like the shita that Alter Rebbe accepts. So therefore, you would have to make a pruzbul at the end of this year. The early years, right? The early years the Rebbe did not make a pruzbul at the end of year 7, only at the end of year 6. In the later years, the Rebbe did make a pruzbul at the end of year 6 and the end of year 7. Now, Lamaisa, what are we going to do in Beis Menachem Mendel? At the end of year 6, we wrote a shtar, and there's a whole. We did it last year. I don't think it's necessary, since the Alter Rebbe holds that the main thing is at the end of year 6, and we did it already. I don't think it's necessary to go through the same exercise. However, what we could do is what the Rebbe did, which is to, after Hataras Nedarim, to just say that one line. Which is printed in the Siddur in the bottom under the Hataras Nedarim. And therefore, I would like to encourage everyone to make sure to do Hataras Nedarim this year. Sometimes, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah is such a long day. So I can do Hataras Nedarim and Aseret Simei Tshuva, this, that. But if you missed this year, if you missed Hataras Nedarim, that's really the time to say. So either if you can't make it, maybe do another pruzbul. But we're not making in Beis Menachem Mendel a pruzbul this year. I'm saying a contract pruzbul. We're relying on the fact that everyone in Mitzvah Shem will do Hataras Nedarim and add that line at the end. There's a few conditions. The loiva needs to have a little bit of karka. So for sure, Amakna, for anyone that needs to have any loiva that needs to have the karka. I have in mind anyone in Beis Menachem Mendel that needs, so whatever conditions, it's all there.
If you don't do Hataras Nedarim, find out in the Sephardic Shul and it's 4 times.
Oh, wow.
Or you can find
Wow.
one day.
Okay, the Eibush shall help him. The Eibush should be mashmit all the chayvis, just in case we have any loans with the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Eibush should give it to us. Yodam le'ah psucha k'doshim v'chava. The Eibush should give us a ksiv tzimatoyv shana toyv m'suka.
So you mean like just it means like, for example, if you loan something book,
One. Now, let me take one. I'll take the rest. No. One I want. That's it.
Did I have that just money? Or
Huh? All the money. Yeah.
When you leave for Israel? Thursday morning.
Should I just cancel the credit card, or should I go over there and let them?
Cancel.
Just cancel.
Cancel.